When I saved an Apache woman's life, her expression of thanks became something I never could have imagined. Curious about her unexpected proposal? Keep watching, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible tales. Let's dive in. The relentless Arizona heat beat down mercilessly, draining vitality from everything beneath it. Lazy clouds of dust danced on the breeze, bringing hints of parched mesquite and baked soil. I'd wrapped up my business at the trading post, my bags heavy with provisions, when my attention caught on something strange in the distance. Initially, I assumed the wavering shape was just a heat illusion playing tricks against the sandy backdrop. Then the shadow lurched forward and crumpled to the ground. Guiding my mount nearer, disbelief washed over me as I discovered a woman exhausted, injured, her frame fighting desperately to stay upright, now lying motionless. Near my horse's feet, everything about her spoke of an impossible journey through hell itself. Matted strands of dark hair, thick with grit, plastered themselves against her perspiration-soaked skin. The garment she wore, once a beautiful handcrafted piece, hung in tatters and filth, suggesting battles with both nature and people. Parched, split lips and hollow eyes still flickered with that primal will to live. Reaching down carefully, I gathered her frail form weightless as a sparrow and settled her onto my saddle. She offered no resistance, simply let her eyelids fall, placing whatever remained of her strength in my hands. A small water source, I remembered, sat just past the nearby hill. I pushed my horse forward, kicking up plumes of dirt as we raced across the wasteland. When we arrived at the spring, consciousness was slipping from her. Dropping to my knees, I filled my water container and brought it to her mouth. Initially, her eyes showed distrust and uncertainty, but her overwhelming need conquered her doubt, and she consumed the water eagerly, liquid running down her jaw. After coughing once, she stabilized, and I noticed a hint of life creeping back into her complexion. Even in this delicate state, something fierce and protective radiated from her being. As her breathing normalized, she murmured in fractured English, her tone hushed yet pressing. Each word seemed to drain her remaining energy. She explained how she'd fled from pursuers determined to eliminate her. The account came in pieces, but I gathered she'd been running for days without sustenance or hydration. The wilderness showed no mercy, yet she'd embraced it rather than surrendered to those hunting her. I remained quiet, absorbing her words, recognizing that the agony she carried ran deeper than this brief moment could reveal. Right now, staying alive was everything. I covered her with fabric from my supplies and assisted her back onto my horse. Our journey to my dwelling was marked by silence, filled only with the sound of creaking leather and steady hoofbeats on hardened ground. Occasionally, I felt the weight of her head lean against my spine, her breaths coming shallow but consistent. This stranger was entrusting me with her very existence, and I felt the profound burden of that responsibility pressing down on me. Water alone wouldn't be enough. She required sanctuary. My home was humble, a timber construction nestled among rocks and scattered mesquite growth. Nothing fancy, but adequate protection from the brutal environment. I brought her through the doorway and settled her onto my sleeping place, adding extra covering. Throughout the subsequent days, I did everything possible to nurse her back to health. I made thin soups, provided hydration, and cleaned her injuries with my meager medical supplies. She seldom communicated, and when she managed words, they came sparingly in English, though her gaze never left me, constantly evaluating and analyzing. Sometimes I'd notice her studying me, her look penetrating and inquisitive, as if determining whether my compassion was authentic, or if I'd eventually prove untrustworthy like others before me. I never pushed for her history or details about the threat she'd escaped. I sensed that when the time felt right, she'd share her story. My focus remained on simple acts of care, placing meals within reach, providing comfort, ensuring she understood she'd found protection. Gradually, tension left her posture and her breathing became more peaceful during the still nights. While the wilderness outside continued its usual chaos, wind battering the walls, wild dogs calling through the darkness inside these walls existed a delicate tranquility. On the third sunset, as orange and crimson painted the sky, I discovered her upright for the first time since her arrival, she'd pulled the covering around herself, loose strands framing her features. Meeting my eyes, her demeanor had transformed. The wariness had melted away, replaced by something profound, wordless appreciation, perhaps even astonishment. Her stare held mine longer than previously, and I sensed the significance of her unspoken thoughts. That evening, with desert winds whistling through gaps in the timber walls, I occupied myself by the flames, whittling wood idly. She positioned herself nearby, closer than she'd dared before. Then, unexpectedly, she extended her arm and rested it softly upon mine. Her contact felt warm, purposeful, and intentional. I glanced toward her, caught off guard, and discovered her eyes gleaming with unprecedented intensity. Her mouth quivered faintly as words formed, carrying both fragility and determination. "You showed me kindness when everyone else abandoned me. I wish to offer you something far more valuable in exchange." Her statement lingered between us, charged with significance. Though I didn't yet comprehend her intentions, I recognized this wasn't spoken carelessly. This transcended simple appreciation. It was a vow, possibly even a connection forming between two souls thrown together beneath Arizona's unforgiving sun. Whatever her meaning, I sensed that what lay ahead would surpass mere survival. Transformation was underway, something unforeseen and profound. Born the instant I chose to help that solitary figure collapsed in the sand. Her words left me paralyzed with shock. My thoughts scrambled to process what she'd just proposed. Marriage hadn't crossed my mind, not in this barren landscape where simply existing consumed all your energy. Yet her delivery, resolute, steady, revealed this wasn't some offhand notion. This represented a pledge of faith and respect, something extending far beyond simple thankfulness. Flames cast dancing shadows across her features, revealing both her conviction and the fragility she carefully masked behind her declaration. In that instant, I wanted to respond but found myself voiceless. What response could I give? Accepting meant entering an unfamiliar realm, connecting two cultures that frequently regarded each other with skepticism. Declining might offend her and, worse, damage the connection beginning to form between us. My pulse quickened, and I could only acknowledge her slowly, allowing the quiet to convey my internal conflict. She appeared to comprehend, and without pushing harder, simply gave me an expression that communicated patience. Understanding will come. Time moved peacefully following that conversation. The woman, regaining her vitality, operated with newfound intention. She contributed to minor chores around my dwelling, fetching water, repairing fabric, cooking when I came back from caring for livestock or inspecting snares. Everything she did carried quiet grace. She remained largely silent, but her expressions communicated powerfully. And occasionally, when our eyes met, I felt as though she continued evaluating me not as her rescuer, but as someone who might eventually join her daughter's journey. Staying true to her promise, 7 days later she rode back. Accompanied this time, traveling alongside her, was a younger woman, statuesque and graceful, her ebony hair streaming loose in the wind. She possessed the same untamed spirit I'd witnessed in her mother, though her countenance showed additional gentleness that immediately struck me. After dismounting, her mother made introductions with evident pride. The younger woman inclined her head courteously, her gaze briefly connecting with mine before shifting away, humble yet fearless. I observed her carefully, experiencing an unusual combination of reverence and anxiety. She wasn't some delicate creature requiring protection. Instead, she stood firmly grounded in personal strength. Like the hardy mesquite enduring flames and arid conditions, her palms showed evidence of labor. Her build slender but solid, her manner composed yet alert. She could weather this land's challenges, someone capable of standing alongside a partner as an equal. In that instant, I understood her mother's earlier words hadn't been exaggerated when she'd said, "Ideal for you." The three of us gathered for a modest dinner that night. Dialogue remained sparse, bridged through gestures and peaceful moments. The daughter communicated primarily in her tribal language, with her mother interpreting when necessary. I felt like a visitor in my own space, navigating between foreign words and customs, yet rather than awkwardness, I experienced profound respect. They were welcoming me into their existence, presenting something holy. I could feel how seriously they regarded their offer. This arrangement wasn't born from practicality or advantage, it emerged from integrity, appreciation, and acknowledgement of kindred spirits. As darkness deepened, I stepped outside. Gazing at the infinite sky scattered with celestial bodies, my emotions stirred restlessly, though not from apprehension. Marriage had never occupied my thoughts before, yet here it stood, as obvious as the lunar glow above. A connection between two individuals, two families, two different worlds. The wilderness, typically a realm of isolation, now presented the chance for partnership, for creating something enduring. For the first time in countless seasons, I felt not merely existing, but summoned toward something beyond myself. Throughout subsequent days, the young woman and her mother returned frequently. She and I started communicating in fragments, my clumsy attempts at her dialect. Her hesitant English constructing a fragile but expanding understanding. We chuckled at our errors, exchanged tailies in partially comprehended phrases, and labored together silently when language proved inadequate. With each passing day, I perceived her with greater clarity, not just her resilience and devotion, but the radiance in her expression, the forbearance in her character, the tenderness she showed toward even minor details. I began grasping what her mother had recognized in me, why she'd spoken with such conviction. This wasn't simply about gratitude, it was about equilibrium. I'd preserved her life, and in response, she was presenting me with an existence worth embracing, one brimming with significance and common purpose. When I observed her daughter, I no longer saw merely the stranger delivered to my threshold. I saw the potential for kinship, for a tomorrow built on mutual regard, established on the groundwork of two worlds converging beneath America's expansive skies. One evening, as desert breezes murmured outside again, her mother joined my hand with her daughter's. Silence prevailed. No explanation necessary. The understanding was evident, the commitment already established. I gazed into the young woman's eyes, and for the first time she maintained contact. Instead, she smiled, gentle yet unwavering. Within that smile, I discovered the resolution to the uncertainty I'd been carrying. What started as a straightforward act of compassion in the wasteland had brought me here to an unspoken affection, an unbreakable respect, and a fresh start neither of us had anticipated.